all, I'm Nicolle PAL, and I want to thank everyone who's here tonight for coming out. And it's been a while since I formally addressed a crowd, and I'm not rusty, but still kind of been on with it in a couple minutes. I'm going to be done with high school, so flip the tassel. Thank you for telling me. But another reason I'm here is because high school graduation is an interesting setting to me. There are a few rites of passage so rigorously ceremonial in Western society, and this is one of them. Marriages and funerals were the only other two I could think of. So everybody knows these customs, but what does that really mean? It means what the Easter Bunny means to Easter, right? Perfect sense. So I went online while I was writing this to find out what the tassel means, and instead I found an anthropological dissertation about high school graduation as a rite of passage, which is kind of what I wrote about, so I was sort of bummed. But that was written by a doctor who emphasized the wrong thing. And I think they might have, because they've been out of high school for so long, they might have forgotten what high school is all about. So, I still remember. I'm still a senior. And what I remember is this, is that I don't like this rite of passage very much, and I have a couple of reasons why. And my first reason is this, is that a third of my classmates will not graduate. Not the ones who are here, but a third of people my age aren't going to graduate from high school. And the implication to me that goes along with graduating from high school is that you're an adult, or at least you can function as an adult. So a third of people our age right now are being told that they've failed to pass the exam of adulthood. To some degree, I think that's an unfair measuring stick for which to assess a person's competence, considering how many people I know who didn't graduate from high school and are definitely human beings functioning in the fullest sense possible. But my other reason for why this being a rite of passage into adulthood isn't my favorite thing is because high school graduation comes at way too late a time in our lives. In most societies, and in fact in Western European society before it was industrialized, rites of passage into adulthood happened for girls at 12 or 13, and boys maybe 2 years later. And now I know we're all equally squeamish when we hear stories about our great-great-grandparents getting married at 15 years old, but there actually is a biological fact behind it, and that is that most 15-year-olds are biologically and hormonally adults, not mentally. But they're not treated as adults. So on top of that, they won't receive recognition as adults for 2 or 3 more years. So in my opinion, that's where a lot of teenage angst comes from. But I'm not trying to make the case that problematic teenagers are unique to Western society, since they certainly aren't. But some of the respect issues that teenagers so commonly feel are better addressed in other cultures, in my opinion. My problem with high school graduation as the main rite of passage into adulthood is that for 5 or 6 years, you're biologically an adult, but not shown the respect or given the responsibilities of an adult. And at the same time, you aren't shepherded around and doted on like a child. In America, and in Western culture in general, the definition of a teenager isn't a period in a person's life, but a transition between periods in a person's life. And this transitory stage is made worse by its duration. 5 long, arduous years from the time you turn 13 to the day you turn 18. It seems like the whole world hates you. But all this, for some reason, brings me to a movie I was watching a couple weeks ago called Little Miss Sunshine. For those of you who haven't seen it, the movie's dialogue and the characters really make it a good movie. But my favorite bit of dialogue from this whole movie takes place at near the end, as the little girl Olive is registering for Little Miss Sunshine beauty pageant. Her older brother Dwayne and her uncle Frank are standing at the end of a really long pier out to the ocean. And for the majority of the movie, Dwayne doesn't say anything to anyone, because he's trying to get into the Air Force Academy and took a vow of silence. But his distaste for his immediate family is incredibly obvious, despite that. And then Frank, who's recently attempted suicide, after his partner left him for the only other Nobel Proust scholar in the whole country. And I'm sorry if I got that name wrong, but that's the name I heard on the internet. Proust. So, he's equally an outcast. Dwayne laments, "Sometimes I wish I could go to sleep until I was 18. Skip all this crap, high school and everything." And then after a pause, Frank responds with a diatribe about Proust, saying, "Proust gets to the end of his life, he looks back, and he decides all those years he suffered, those were the best years of his life. All those, because they made him who he was. All those years he was happy, total waste, didn't learn a thing." So he continues, "If you sleep until you're 18, think of the suffering you will miss. I mean, high school, those are your prime suffering years. You don't get any better suffering than that." To me, personally, it kind of makes sense. Our society absolutely abhors any little bit of pain or discomfort, and seemingly has done everything possible to rid us of any pain we will ever be required to experience at any point in our lives. So it only makes sense that before all of us can become adults, 5 years of pain, suffering, humiliation, embarrassment, and isolation might be required. You can't take a painkiller and be done with it. You can't slip gel inserts in your shoes and forget about it. You can't reach for a drink and wash it away. You deal with it because we all believe that the reward for dealing with it will someday outweigh the discomfort in the present. And indeed it does. And so the people who told me that high school was supposed to be the best time in my life, I kind of disagree. I think of the people who didn't go through excessive pain and discomfort in high school at some point, privileged people, socialites, Paris Hiltons, people who instead of adapting to the needs of the world around them, asked the world to adapt to them. I don't want to turn out a narcissistic, attention-craving adult with no anchor in reality. I'm happy I suffered. Furthermore, I'm happy I'm done suffering through our culture's true exam which confers adulthood, making it to 18 years old and surviving high school. And I want to thank all the people who allowed me to do that. In particular, Chris Reddick, who, if it hadn't been for him, I don't know what would have happened in my high school. So, there's a lot of people though. I want to thank all the teachers at Spectrum Community High School. I don't think we're here, but deserve recognition anyway. In particular, Bob Jabal, Richard Colin, and Phil Davis. And most of all, I want to congratulate the entire class and all their families, all their extended families, and all their friends, because we all need it.